Hi everyone, welcome back to Average Fitness, fitness tips for the average person. In today's video we're going to be talking about losing weight. Now, I would argue that 99.9% of people who say they want to lose weight don't. They actually want the results of losing weight, i.e. looking more athletic, looking slimmer, dropping a dress size, feeling fitter, etc. But for the purpose of this video, we're just going to say losing weight is the goal, and here's how we achieve that. The fitness and diet industry have vastly overcomplicated losing weight. And the reason for this is, if everybody knew how simple it was, businesses would be bankrupt, influencers would have to get new proper jobs. And the reason that I say that is because losing weight is very, very simple. It's just not easy. In order to lose weight, you need your body to burn more calories on a daily basis than you consume on a daily basis on average. It really is that simple. And this is what's known as creating a calorie deficit, i.e. every day your body burns X amount of calories, and every day you put in Y amount of calories in terms of your food and drink intake. And the difference is what helps you to lose weight. That's called the deficit. There's 3 ways to create a deficit, but in order to do that, you need to know roughly how many calories your body is expending and how many calories you're intaking. There's a couple of apps out there. MyFitnessPal is the famous one. There's obviously others as well. I would also recommend downloading a step counter to give you an idea of how many steps you take in an average day. And then use that facility to input your food and drink intake, and that'll tell you how many calories you're consuming on a daily basis. And based on your current activity level, your current weight, and your height, it'll tell you how many calories you burn per day on average. You need to be honest though. It's no good putting in that you work out 5 times a week if you don't. But once you've put in all that data, it'll tell you how many calories you burn on an average day, and then you can go from there in terms of creating that deficit. So for example, if it says that to maintain your current weight, you need to be eating 2,500 calories a day, if your goal is to lose weight, then you simply reduce how many calories you intake to lower than 2,500. Now the common problem that most people face is they try and do too much too soon. They try and, create a deficit of 600-700 calories a day and lose that weight quickly. Don't get me wrong, it can be an effective process, but it's not sustainable. If you're going on holiday in 7 to 10 days time, I don't think anybody's going on holiday in 2021 at this stage, but if you're going on holiday in 10 days time and you want to drop half a stone to look better in your swimwear, then fine. I've got no problem with that. You can do that, and it can be effective, but it is not sustainable. You're going to put that weight back on probably while you're on holiday, and certainly not, certainly shortly after. But if your goal is to simply, lose that stone that you put on over the last year, or get a little bit fitter for the first time, or what have you, it's much, much more effective to set up a sustainable plan where you lose a small amount of weight at a time and then gradually take it from there, because that, like I say, is much more sustainable. You're much more likely to keep at that, and then you're motivated by your progress, and you'll continue with that program for however long it takes. So now that we know that it's as simple as basic maths, creating a deficit between how many calories you're taking in, there's basically 3 ways you can do that. Move more, i.e. in your daily life, not including exercise. Create more calories being burnt in your daily life. There's various ways to do this. Climbing the stairs rather than using the lift, or parking further away in the car park before you walk into the office. If you do have an office job, trying to get out and about on your feet a bit more, providing that's not going to get you sacked. But basically any way you can to increase how much you move throughout the day, not including exercise. The second way to burn more calories is obviously adding more exercise into your routine. Now, there's various videos out there on my YouTube channel. There's hundreds of millions of other YouTube channels out there, and influencers and businesses, etc. What I would say is, if you're new to exercise especially, keep it simple. You don't want to overcomplicate it. You don't want to try out these fancy workouts with 100 different exercises in that you don't know what you're doing, and especially now that you can't go to the gym and perhaps speak to a PT. Keep it nice and simple. Use, home workouts can be vastly effective. Use the equipment that you have, even if it's just things that you find lying around the house. Keep it as simple as you can. Keep to a program that you will actually stick to. If you can only commit to it 2 or 3 days a week rather than 7, that's absolutely fine. Make the most of the time you've got. Definitely do your homework. By all means, speak to some professionals. If you have a friend or a friend of a friend who is a personal trainer or what have you, by all means reach out and have a conversation with them. Reach out to people like myself if you feel like you could learn from that. But do not overcomplicate the issue, because you just won't stick to it. Instead of increasing how many calories you burn in a day, the other way to create a deficit is to reduce how many calories you intake, i.e. dieting. In terms of dieting, most people, when they hear the word diet, they think of restricting certain foods, or eliminating certain foods, or intermittent fasting, only eating during certain times of the day, etc., etc. They're all relevant. They all exist, but they're all based on the same principle. Stick to controlling how many calories are going into your body, i.e. tracking them. Be honest with yourself when you're inputting your food into your, if you're using MyFitnessPal, for example, when you're putting the food in, be honest with yourself, be strict with yourself, try not to forget, include your cups of tea and your cups of coffee, especially if you have milk and sugar in those. If you've had a large portion of chips, put in that you've had a large portion, not a small or a medium, because there's no use lying to yourself with this facility. Once you've done that for a few days, you'll get a flavour of how many calories you're burning on a daily basis. You'll look at ways that you can bring that down. Like I say, you don't need to increase your exercise. You don't even need to restrict your diet, but it is beneficial to do both, or to do all three, including moving more in your daily life as well. And like I say, stick to a sustainable plan. If you are looking to lose weight quickly, that's possible, but it's just not sustainable for the long term. It is much more achievable to set a long-term goal, lose a stone over the course of 4 months, for example, and stick to that. So if, for example, your calories for the day to maintain your current weight is 2,200, then there's no use in trying to restrict yourself to 1,500 calories a day. It's just not sustainable for the long term. Much more effective to maybe consume 2,000 calories a day, maybe try and move a bit more so that you're actually burning 2,300 rather than 2,200, and that's going to create that 300 calorie deficit. And over time, that's not a lot, and you won't be losing half a stone a week, but over time, consistency being the key, you will lose that weight. You may need to tweak these things as you go. For example, as you start to lose weight, your maintenance calories for that new current weight are going to be lower. So you may need to tweak things as you go, but as long as your plan is a long-term one, and you stick to a sustainable program, then you will get there. If you want to reach out to myself, obviously there are lots of other places to go for help and advice as well. Don't be afraid to reach out. There are no stupid questions. There's infinite amounts of information on the internet regarding this. But like I say, a lot of it is overcomplicated. Track your calories in, move a bit more during the day, make sure you're honest with yourself, and you will lose that weight. But try to do it in a sustainable, long-term fashion. Any questions, give me a shout. And until next time. One last thing that I skipped over and forgot to mention was I mentioned earlier about restricting certain foods, eliminating certain foods, intermittent fasting, etc. All of these diets that exist, Atkins diet, intermittent fasting, etc., etc. All of these diets are based on the same principle, but that doesn't mean that any of them are wrong. It doesn't mean that any of them won't work for you. It's probably quite a good idea to look at the different diets that are out there in order to get a flavour of what you think will work for you. And then you can always change it if needs be. But they're all based on the same principle, tracking your calories in and tracking your calories out. If you find that sticking to an 8-hour window during the day where you don't eat at any other time except for between 10 and 6 is a way for you to create a calorie deficit, then by all means follow the intermittent fasting route. But if you don't think that's going to work for you, do not overstress yourself about it. Try something else. If you think that cutting chocolate out altogether is going to help you create that deficit, by all means. If you think that you need to have a little bit of chocolate here and there so that you don't get too many cravings, then if that works better for you, then do that. It's all about creating a deficit. You do not need to eliminate any foods, but if you feel that will help you to create that deficit, then by all means do so. I don't want to shit on any diets in particular. I don't want to say that any of them work or don't work. They all work and they all don't work, depending on who it is that's doing them. So, like I say, if you have any questions regarding, this type of thing, there are much more qualified people than me out there. By all means, reach out to me if you need to, or if you feel like you'd like to. But until next time, take it easy.